is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. And we're broadcasting 2 hours from a temporary studio in Northern Virginia. Yeah, it's a place that's really uncomfortable to me. Police are everywhere, but they're making sure we're safe. I haven't seen a single one help someone unlock his or her car or help someone with a flat tire. Not one. Alex is producing the broadcast in Minnesota, and there's a link to all of your instructors on the website, usaprepares.com. And we're posting articles and up-to-the-minute stories that you may want to consider reading. We're going to talk about some of those. Fukushima, radiation's leaking. Yeah. We might talk about that a little bit later. Today we've got Frank Underhill. Frank Underhill's with us. He's the CEO of UnderhillSecurities.com, a trusted advisor to Bob Chapman, the late and the great friend of both of ours, Bob Chapman. Frank Underhill, welcome.
Good morning, Vincent. Glad to be here this morning.
Hey, Frank. I was talking to a lady over the weekend, and she told me that one of her friends received a traffic ticket here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Business is booming, Frank, in the traffic ticket department. It's the only it's the only place. Maybe crime is booming, as Benny Hill used to say. The only thing that's booming in the United Kingdom, but the traffic ticket business is really booming here. There's this young lady who failed to use her turn signal, and she was awarded a certificate of merit for $160 for failure to use her turn signal. I think that is a criminal penalty for a very minor infraction. You know, a lot of people don't use their signals, and it's not polite, that's for sure. But $160 fine for not using a turn signal, I think it's out of control. You have any thoughts, Frank, on that?
Well, obviously, it's complete gouging, and I think, Vince, correct me if I'm wrong, but in rural areas, I don't know where you are in Virginia, but a lot of people don't really use turn signals, do they? You know, if the roads are not used, or I know living in Canada in the prairies there, or not living there, but visiting, I notice a lot of people always drive like a few miles over the limit. Or they don't turn right in front of you, but, they turn, with, I don't see signals on. But, this is, like, I think a way of life that you're seeing big city politics encroaching into urban, rural living. And there you don't have as many people, and regardless, there's still way more accidents happening in big cities and wild freeways than there are in these rural areas. So I think this police officer should have been on a freeway or something, getting people doing the speed limit, and then like $165. That's just egregious. I can see $30 or $20 or off with the warning, but it's too much.
Yeah, it's $160, Frank, and
here's warning, and this lady probably never got a ticket in her life, or maybe 20 years ago.
Here's the way I look at this. A lot of I happen to be in a college town. There are several institutions of higher learning here, and there are a lot of young people. And what I'm looking at $160, if you include all the taxes that are involved in receiving $160 net from a paycheck. It's a week's worth of wages for, at minimum wage for a young person, a week's worth of wages. Now, this person, I'm sure, is going to use her turn signals from now on. But the point is, it's out of control. And I think the same thing could have been accomplished with a smile and a warning. And it didn't even have to be a written warning. All it had to be was, ma'am, I noticed, or I believe I noticed that you didn't use your turn signal. Now, I don't know if the cops are photographing and videoing people for things like that. Do they have their cameras running 24 hours a day, whenever they're behind their vehicles? Or do they have video proof that she didn't use her signal? Is it that he just didn't see her not use the signal? What if the cop was wrong? And, when you go to court, how often is it that the cops are believed, whereas the person being charged is not believed? How often is that? The point is, $160 in Spotsylvania County or Fredericksburg, Virginia, is out of control. And I'm doing an investigative report, and I'll have it out in a couple of weeks when I get safely out of this occupied territory. But we'll talk about what I have observed in Northern Virginia. You won't believe it. But Frank, I'm upset. I'm upset that these guys are ticketing to such an enormous amount of money. It's out of control. Frank, I've got a bunch of articles on the website, and I happen to be, I want to talk to you about one of them. This is actually not on the website, but in the local market in Missouri, when I'm at the farm, I produce 60-second tips, a tip of the day, and one of our affiliates here on Genesis Communications Network plays these tips of the day, one tip per day, and one of them says that you can call your phone company and you can reduce your phone bill by about $10 with a simple call, and it will last for an entire year, 12 months. And so I said, how you do it? You call them and you politely say, I'd like to pay less. And you explain that it's as simple as that. You'd like to pay less. Not that you're broke, not that you're destitute, no yelling, no screaming. It's just that you'd like to pay less. And I happen to be visiting some friends and family, and this particular household has a Comcast bill, which is a cable bill. And I asked how much it cost, and I was provided with the service detail receipt. And I said, geez, I don't understand a lot of this stuff on here. There's a whole bunch of charges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 charges. There are 12 charges that comprise this bill. And so I said, would it be okay if I called Comcast and see if I can get your bill reduced? And the person said, sure. So after a 5-minute phone call, Frank, I got the bill reduced by 20%. And, no threats, no screaming, no yelling. Just, can you help me? I'm looking at this. I'm so confused. There's so many. There's a digital preferred promotion. There's an HD technology fee. There's a DVR service. There's an additional outlet service, digital adapter. There's a communication sales tax, another communication sales tax. There's a right-of-way use fee, an FCC regulatory fee, another sales tax. I'm really confused. How can we get this? How can we work together to get this bill reduced? And within 5 minutes, we were down $20. And then I found out that we could reduce it even further by making 2 small changes. Frank, have you ever heard of anything like that?
Never. I just try to avoid being in these situations. So I just try to subscribe to very few services, and I think a lot of your listeners can probably equivocate because you always have someone always trying to ding your pockets on something or throw charges on your monthly bill that you didn't give permission for, and they're hoping you don't notice it, and everything is a gimmick or a carrot on a stick or a dog chasing its tail or something, one thing or another.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fun with this lady that I was on the phone with, and she was really sweet. She was in.
But what a way to
Maryland.
take 20 minutes of your day off, having to stick handle something that shouldn't even
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, but you know, I feel really good because here's what I did. I said, yeah, I'm really confused. Now, is there any way that we can reduce the bill? I said, can you reduce it by $10? And I said, I'd like to reduce it by $20. She said, well, the computer says that you're a good customer. I said, oh, great. I can take $10 off. I said, okay, great. That's wonderful. And I said, what is this HD technology fee? She said, well, it's high definition. I said, well, we don't have a high definition television here, just a regular old television. She said, okay, I can take that off. That was another $10. So instantly we had $20 off. And then I said, help me with this. I don't understand. What is a wireless gateway device? It's $7 a month. And she said, well, that would be a router. And I said, can I put my own router in? She said, sure. I said, okay. So all I have to do is take the router back, or actually the owner of the service, or the subscriber will. And so I went on eBay and I bought a router for about $15. Exactly the same router that Comcast is renting to this subscriber for $7 a month. I bought one for $15, and with shipping included. So I'm going to, I had it shipped to the subscriber, and they'll bring it to Comcast, and so for $15, a 2-month payback. Frank, when you were in school, 2-month payback is like as good as it gets, isn't it?
Yep, that's right.
Yep. And then
Very
I found, there's another thing called an additional service digital adapter. So if you have a television in another room with a remote, for $2 a month, they'll rent you this device that you can buy a new one for $25. So if they want to pay $25 and have a 12-month payback, they can reduce their bill another $2. So what we did was we got the bill reduced by $27 by spending a one-time charge of $15. So I just wanted to share that. Oh, and the taxes will go down. Frank, there's 5 taxes, 5 separate taxes on a cable TV bill. How can that be? 5 of them.
I'm not surprised. You get the airway tax, sales tax, it adds up quickly.
Frank, when we come back, what would you like to talk about?
Gold.
Gold. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. Gold when we come back. Frank Underhill's with us, and we're going to talk about one of his very favorite topics. That's gold. Frank, let's talk about gold.
Well, Vincent, lately the U.S. dollar has been going sideways or drifting, and I think longer-term interest rates have slowly been going up. But I think gold has leveled off here, and it seems to have found a new footing at these levels. Now, people have to take into consideration that a fund, the Accra Gold Bugs, is down 45% from the high, and I think Barrick Gold makes up for a large portion of that. However, you're starting to see these miners slowly, doing a crawl to recovery, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I think over the next year, gold should stabilize further and probably start to find its footing and start to appreciate again.
Okay, Frank, I can tell you that there are a number of people who are associated with USA Prepares who are buying gold, and they've decided that the price is down, and they're loading up. They are dollar cost averaging, and they see the long term for gold being just up. They can't see it any other direction. Frank, Ben Bernanke made an announcement about quantitative easing, and the market tanked. The market tanked when when Wall Street thought that there might not be any more quantitative easing.
And you take that as good news because it shows the economy is off life support, and that shows you how fixed of an appetite Wall Street has on big government.
Yes.
You think that would be bullish?
Well, that's what I thought. I thought, wow, this is great news because inflation, once it really kicks in, it'll ultimately stop because of the cessation of the printing. And Bernanke was asked, are you printing money? And he said, well, not literally. Not literally. Well, that's true. He's not printing literally. The Treasury is. But he's creating the digits that allow the Treasury to print. And so the bottom line is inflation will continue. It absolutely will. And prices are going up and up. Frank, I wanted to buy, help someone buy shelving, for their basement, for their storage plan. I've been teaching people about what we do, survival, preparedness, those kinds of things. And I recommended that this family buy Gorilla brand shelving. I think it's the best shelving that you can get. And you just buy it once. You don't have to buy it, and it's not like the plastic shelving that's going to bow in the middle. It's not like that cheap shelving that they sell at some of these home supply places, these chains that sell this cheap stuff. This is really good shelving. Now, I bought mine in the 40s, the high $40 per shelf unit in a big box, and it's heavy, years ago. It's now $80. It's almost twice the price. So, Frank, when they say inflation is just a couple percent, Frank, that's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Inflation, if you're buying real stuff, quality, it's costing more and more. I mean, not a little bit more. I mean, to go from the 40s to 80s is a big jump in a few years.
Huge jump.
Yeah. And if someone finds Gorilla brand shelving, the stuff that'll hold 1,500 pounds per shelf, the 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep, 72 inches tall. If you find that for less than $80, I'd like to know. I really would. But I don't think so. The box weighs about 50 pounds. So that's just one example. Frank, are you seeing inflation from and it only comes from one place. It only comes from printing.
The other day at the gas station, gas is $3.77 a gallon there. That's the inflation. And even, bread prices are up. A loaf of bread that I like to buy, I've seen go from like $3.30. It's like $4.27 a loaf now.
$4.27 a loaf. Frank,
yeah.
when I was Frank, when I was a child, it was 17 cents a loaf. 17 cents. Now we're at $4.27 a loaf. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. Frank, what do you want to talk about when we come back? It's going to be a mystery. We'll be right back. You hear that sound, right? Yeah. There you go. Can you hear that sound?
Yeah, I do. I don't know where that came from.
Well, let me tell you what it is. That's the sound of what happens when you call this phone number, 262-884-2380. Now, Frank, there's a post on the website, USAPrepares.com. 9 agents and 4 deputies armed to the teeth kill, let me say it a different way, kill a baby deer. Now, this deer was rescued by an animal shelter in Wisconsin. And what happened was this SWAT team-like congregation, army of agents armed to the teeth descend on this animal shelter. It's a Society of St. Francis. That's a no-kill shelter. This is where animals are allowed to live out their lives without being killed, like the SPCA kills them. That would be the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. They kill animals. But this is a no-kill shelter. And these guys found this baby deer, cute deer, about a little smaller than Thomas Jefferson, our puppy. And so they were feeding him, and they were going to release this fawn the next day. So they had this army comes in, these 13 individuals, armed to the teeth. They had surveillance, aerial surveillance, and they had proof that this baby deer was going in and out of a barn. It was absolutely certain to them. They had proof it was going in and out of this barn, and therefore they were going to get it. And they grabbed it, they put it in a body bag, and they tranquilized it, so they said, and then they killed it. Now, I am so outraged. They've got this bonehead warden supervisor of the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Her name is Jennifer Niemeyer, Jennifer Niemeyer. Jennifer Niemeyer. You'll see a picture of her smiling face on our website, usaprepares.com, page 1. So these guys took this baby deer and killed it. Now, the rescuers were going to turn it over and release it the next day. Not good enough. Not good enough. Now, why did they kill this baby deer? Well, you know how dangerous these things are? They can carry diseases. That's what they said. And why did these guys show up unannounced like a SWAT team? Why? Well, because they said, when we're going to do a drug bust, we don't announce that we're going to show up. They just show up. 9 guys show up after one deer. They can't make a phone call. They can't say, oh, by the way, we've heard some reports that you have this baby deer there. Can you tell us about it? Nope. They just show up. And they kill the deer. This woman needs to be fired. Absolutely fired. Jennifer Niemeyer. I'm going to give you her phone number. I'm going to give you her direct phone number. And that number that you heard was me calling and calling and calling. I was going to put her on the air, but she doesn't have the guts to stand behind her decision to kill this deer. Jennifer Niemeyer, 262-884-2380. 262-884-2380. That's her office number. And if you can't write it down, just go to usaprepares.com. It says on the post, 9 agents and 4 deputies armed to the teeth kill a rescued baby deer. Now, if you can't get through to her, which I can't, but I did get through to her boss's number. Now, his name is Kevin Mickelberg. Kevin, Mickelberg. Now, his office actually has an answering machine, so I left him a message and asked him to call me back. I'll be surprised if he does, and I'll tell you all about it if he does. 414-263-8540. 414-263-8540. That's his office number. Frank, I'm so outraged that here we have a government agency, right? They're not, these guys, we pay these guys. They can't help people change tires. Nope, they can't do that. They're too busy. But it takes 9 of them to go after a baby deer. They shouldn't even be messing with a baby deer in the first place.
I think whenever you have law enforcement show up to a scene, it's probably going to end in death. And I think that people should know before calling police to intervene. Try to resolve things yourself, because 2 things will happen. Somebody will either go to jail,
yep,
and there'll be more fines, more fees, more bail, and all this other hijinks that goes with it, or someone will be killed.
And who
I
are
urge your listeners, try to work it out yourselves. The other day in Florida, a guy I was watching reading the neighpaper here, got shot while rummaging for cigarettes in his car in his own driveway, and the neighborhood called the police, and the And the police showed up, and and the natural instinct for the guy to do when he was told to freeze would be to get out of your car, or to stick your head out. And they say they saw a shiny object in his hand, and he walked into a firing squad. Well, just because somebody has an object in their hand doesn't always mean they've got a gun in their hand, or if they have anything. They can always say, "Oh, I shot him because there's a shiny object, or there's an object, or something." It's always they always justify their actions with meaningless or trivial footnotes. Oh, well, he had a shiny object, and then he's, thank goodness he survived. But he said it was like walking into a firing squad, and you have this excessive. Like, what happened to the days when you had to shoot at the police first before they could return fire? And now they say that the police chief said on the news that, well, officers can shoot until the suspect is basically non-functional anymore, basically. So. Well,
actually, I think they can shoot until they run out of ammunition.
And then reload.
There's a county in Virginia where there was a bank robbery, and they used about 1,400 rounds of ammunition. 1,400 rounds of ammunition. These Keystone cops blasted and blasted and blasted. I mean, what's the possibility of hitting something other than what you're aiming at with 1,400 rounds? I mean,
Vincent, look at that lady driving a pickup truck in California when that renegade police officer was running loose. They shot 2 women in a truck that had nothing to do with it.
That's exactly right. Now, I think let's propose
shooting
a penalty.
The reindeer.
Let's propose Let's propose a penalty. I propose that when a police officer draws and fires and kills an unarmed person or kills a person needlessly, that they be tried, and if found guilty, they get hung. Public execution. Public execution. An eye for an eye. I mean, when a cop kills somebody needlessly, okay, and if they're found guilty, and it'd be really hard to do because the judge and the prosecutor and the cops are all on the same side. We have to depend on the system policing itself, and I don't have very much faith in it. But Frank, I think that if a cop kills a person recklessly or needlessly, they need to be hung. If found guilty, they need to be hung in the public square. Because we got to stop this. We absolutely have to stop this, because pretty soon, if we don't stop it, the police are going to make themselves targets. They're going to make themselves targets by the people for their crazy, reckless actions. There's no need to ticket someone $160 for the lack of using a turn signal. These guys have lost their mission. To protect and serve? Absolutely. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And I'm doing a special investigative report, and I'm going to tell you, and it sounds like I'm angry. I am, because I know things that I'm going to share with you, and you're going to be shocked. And it's going to take a couple weeks. But it just makes me crazy, Frank. Our website is full of stories, absolutely full of stories like this, where police have shot people. Okay, here's another one on our website. 7 police gunned down an innocent woman who was in the truck with a criminal. So this girl's this woman's in a truck with her boyfriend, right? And she's in Oklahoma. Okay, the police want to stop this guy. So what do? They start blasting away. They start shooting and shooting and shooting, and they kill an innocent woman. Come on, aren't there other ways? I mean, these guys have, they can do roadblocks, they have tasers, they've got all kinds of stuff. They don't have to keep killing innocent people. That's just one more story. There's a whole bunch of these on the website.
And even the guy driving the truck, he's probably denied of his due process.
Well, he was executed. He was executed by the cops. Frank, you hit the nail on the head. He was denied of due process. Every single one of those cops involved, every single one needs to be tried, and if convicted, hung publicly. Hung.
And the Constitution even tells us we shall not be tried for any capital offense without due process. And I think that this guy was tried, convicted, and executed, and his girlfriend paid the price just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time with them. There's just something not right about that.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, Frank, let's take it to the next level. I don't have much confidence in government employees. They make a lot of mistakes, and I'm going to share some of those mistakes with you when I give you this investigative report in a couple of weeks. But imagine this. These cops are riding around with license plate scanners. So they drive around and they can scan one license plate every 3 minutes. All right. They don't have to do anything. They just ride around, and these cameras, these 120-degree angle cameras, 3 cameras gives 360 degrees of license plate scanning. So they're riding around, and the license plate cameras and scanners transmit that information to their computer in the squad car. And the squad car then says, beep, beep, beep. Oh, there's one. So then they single out that guy with that particular license plate. That guy is automatically targeted as a bad guy. He might even be borrowing the car. There could be a data entry from one of these bonehead employees that works for the government. They could have keyed in the wrong number, right? They could have keyed in the wrong number. And now this guy's a target. And he can get killed as a result of these automatic license plate scanners that these guys are riding around in. Looking at a chart during the break, and it's a gold chart, London Fix, and July 2013. At the beginning of the month, July 1, last month, gold was at $12.40. And today, right now, let's see, it's about just about $13.20. So it's up. Gold is up. I mean, the trend looks good. Has a slight downturn the last couple of days, but the trend looks good. Frank, do you see any reason for not holding gold over the long term?
Well, gold is always, historically, has always gone up in value, and I think that the gold market itself is a lot bigger than anybody's few ounces or how many ounces they have, sitting at home in a vault. But if you look at the charts, sure, there's always hiccups and downdrafts, regardless. But in the end, it always has materialized to show appreciation from one point or another. When Clinton was in, gold was down to $300 an ounce. It went all the way up, after that, if you look at any chart, at 700, 800. A year before, it was as high as almost like 1900. Mm-hmm. And here it's down here at 1300. And it's $600, mind you, it gave up so much, like $600 in the course of a year. That's a pretty deep drop, but I think people should be optimistic. And remember, this metal is traded every day. People buy, people sell, and it's all contingent on primarily what the dollar does. As the U.S. dollar goes down, well, gold goes up. And actually, the head of the central bank in Europe came out and said that the worst is behind them. So then here you have currencies competing. Again, if euro goes up, the dollar goes down, and I think that would help gold too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the current price is $1305.30, so $1,305.30 is the current spot price for gold at this very second. And
I would just like to see silver move up.
Yeah, silver's my favorite. It really is. I like silver the most. It's heavy. It's cumbersome if a person were to want to accumulate a bunch of it. $1,000 face is pretty heavy. It would fit in a 50 caliber ammo can, $1,000 face, and it's about all a person could really want to lift. Ammo can is certainly good for storing it because it's airtight and it's moisture tight. I'm talking about old military ammo cans, 50 caliber ammo cans. that were used in World War II all the way through current production, modern production, same size cans. So that would hold about $1,000 face. Now, Frank, I was looking at the prices of silver dollars just before the broadcast. I went to eBay, and I look at eBay as just a general indication. If a person wanted to buy peace dollars, non-certified, nothing special, very good to extra fine, $25 to $28 a piece. But the spot price is $19.75. So they're trading at almost 50% more than the spot price, especially when you consider an almost uncirculated is selling at $30 or so, and Morgan silver dollars are in the range of $32 to $35 a piece. Now this is all at the same time that silver is selling at spot price at $19.75 an ounce. So I think I think the numbers are misleading. If you physically want to own it, it's going to cost more than the spot price. My thoughts, Frank. Your thoughts? We've got a few seconds before we go to the top of the hour.
I fall in line with that, yeah.
Yeah. Frank Underhill. He's the CEO of UnderhillSecurities.com. UnderhillSecurities.com. Trusted advisor to Bob Chapp. He's on the broadcast classroom with us every Monday. We're going to be right back after the top of the hour news and commercials. Frank Underhill. We'll be right back.
Is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? This is hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. During the top of the hour break, I called Jennifer Niemeyer, Department of Natural Resources. She's the warden supervisor in Wisconsin. No answer. So I called her boss, Kevin Mickelberg, Mickelberg, and I just got his voicemail. So I've called them 6 times today, before the broadcast, during the broadcast, and just recently, and I let them know we're talking about him. We're talking about him. Why? Because they sent 9 agents and 4 deputies to kill a baby deer that was going to be released the next day. They took it upon themselves to take life. Reckless actions on the part of the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. These guys are a national disgrace. And they say the reason that they did it was because a baby deer could introduce disease into an area wherever this deer may go. Are you kidding me? And they had aerial photographs of this deer going in and out of the shelter, a no-kill shelter that was taking care of and feeding and loved this baby deer. It was left by its mother, and kind humans, took care of the deer and were going to release it the next day. And what did the Department of Natural Resources in Wisconsin do? They sent 9 agents and 4 deputies to grab this baby deer, this unsuspecting baby deer. They corralled the employees of the Society of St. Francis Animal Shelter, a no-kill shelter. They corralled them while these 9 agents and 4 deputies pounced on this deer, put him in a body bag, euthanized him, killed him. This is your government in action. And if you want to, why are we so angry? Why don't we trust anybody in the government? Nobody. How can you? When they act with reckless abandon? so angry. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I don't even like stepping on ants because they're God's creation. And to kill an animal, 9 agents, 4 deputies, to kill an animal like this is uncalled for, unconscionable. These people ought to go to jail. They ought to be prosecuted, every single one. Even if there was a guy there that didn't do it, he just was part of this roundup, he needs to go to jail too. They all need to be prosecuted. They need to go to jail. They need to be put on a public trial with a jury of their peers. If I were there, I would vote to convict, and I would vote for jail time. This is crazy. This is crazy. These guys are bullies. These guys, how can they do this? How can they do this? Okay, I'm going to give you the phone number. Jennifer Niemeyer. 262-884-2380. 262-884-2380. That's her office number. She won't answer. I've been calling her all morning. And her boss, Kevin Mickelberg, 414-263-8540. 414-263-8540. And I'm going to give you the central number for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. 888-936-7463. 888-936-7463. These numbers are posted on the website, usaprepares.com. Frank, I'm so sorry. I'm angry about this. I can't. It makes me crazy just to think that these people are killing needlessly. There's no reason for it.
It just makes one want to scowl.
At least. Frank, let's talk about something a little more pleasant. What's going on in real estate?
Well, believe it or not, I don't think there's any more bargains to be had. I think that prices have gone up so high, and I think with long-term interest rates moving higher, I think it's only going to help mortgages. So maybe it's going to level off here. And mind you, too, Vincent, the banks are holding on to a lot of inventory. Like, I can speak for my area here.
Mm-hmm.
There are many vacated houses available, but none of them are for sale.
Frank, say that again, please. Many houses are available, but none for sale.
None for sale.
And is this because the banks are holding on to them and want yet even more increases in prices? Is that what this is all?
Yes. Yeah, and this is because of the TARP, where you're seeing the effects of it, where the government gave these banks a big cash infusion, where anything they were liquidating a year ago, maybe up to 6-7 months ago, has stopped. And now, since all these financials are turning into profitability, they're saying, "Hey, wait a minute, maybe we don't need to be so rushed out the door anymore." And they're making profits, and they're sitting on their inventory.
Well, I know a person who bought a house, and about 12 months ago, and I was talking to this person this morning, and she said, "I'm going to sell my house. I bought it a year ago. I can make $100,000 on it. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to flip it and buy another one." And seriously, that's what she said. I think that's pretty interesting. Now, can you imagine making $100,000? I mean, living in the house, making $100,000 in a year and selling it? You're absolutely right. These prices are really escalating very, very quickly. But here's a question, Frank. This house happens to be in Northern Virginia that she's talking about. I think that as the government expands, the current administration expands, that will continue. But if these guys get relieved of their positions at the end of this 4-year term, then, and they should be, then what's next? And I would think that the government will get smaller, because we've had it with this government encroachment. And if that happens, if the government gets smaller, these prices will fall. Do you think that, or is this inflation, Frank, that's causing it, or is it both?
I think it's a portion of the inflation as well, and I think what you're seeing again is the creeping up of real estate. Like, it had a quick move, like 30-40% off the bottom.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to be like a first-timer, forget about it. I think if you're looking at all these same commercials are coming back. Even the adjustable rate mortgage is coming back.
Yeah,
that's what got us into trouble in the first place.
Yeah, and Frank, you said if you're a first-time buyer, forget about it. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, well, interest rates are moving up, and even though prices were super low, banks weren't lending anyways. They were liquidating. Well, now they are holding on, and they still are very strict on lending.
Mm-hmm. And a young person that has 1, 2, 3, or 4 jobs, forget it. It's just no way. There's no way a person can afford the fees, the taxes, the ancillary fees, and the price, and the interest rate of home ownership. It's beyond the reach of so many. Frank, I understand. I don't remember exactly what the number is, but I think it's like 1 in 5 young people has moved back with his or her parents because they can't afford to live on their own. The American dream is toast. The American dream of getting out on your own, having that job, having that dream of home ownership, a house in the suburbs, is over. I don't see it returning for most of us. The few wealthy, the few elite, the few privileged, sure. They always do well through their corruption. But the rest of us...
Well, you're seeing a lot of that actually going on here. A lot of people moving back home with their parents. There's a lot of people out of work still. Mm-hmm. A lot of people aren't making money to pay bills, so they have to move back home. And this is a phenomenon that I think will stay with us for quite some time. Even though they say unemployment is down at 7.4%, I think even if unemployment was down to 2%, you'd still have the same result as we have now. I don't take stock in those figures. I've never met anyone that says, "Oh, unemployment is down. Oh, I got a job." I've never known that. Never seen it.
Well, yeah, I don't know anybody who thinks that all you have to do is have a wish and there you get your job. That's not happening. I know people who are applying, and it's in vain. If you look on the internet, you'll see these long lines at these job fairs. And even in Missouri, we have this building. It used to be a supermarket, and the government bought it. The government of Missouri bought this supermarket. They spent a fortune redecorating it and renovating it and putting a new facade on it to make it look like a really nice building. It's a supermarket in a strip mall, a large one, and it's a career center, and nobody goes there because they realize that there are no careers. There aren't any careers. You have to invent your own job. You have to make your own job. You have to become an entrepreneur in today's marketplace, unless you're going to get a government job. And I don't know anybody who looks up to government employees. Frank, when we get back, you want to talk more about real estate, or do you want to talk about the potash collapse?
We can talk about that was last week, and I have something to say about that.
Okay, we're going to talk about potash. Potash prices collapsing. What's that mean to you? We're going to tell you when we come back. Oh man, I just got off the phone with the call center at Department of Natural Resources, state of Wisconsin, and I said I'd like to talk with Jennifer Niemeyer, I was unable to do that. Kevin Mickelberg, unable to do that. Neither one answers his or her phone. So I asked for the secretary. Not the secretary of the office, the secretary of the department, the person who runs the department. Let me give you her name. Her name is Kathy Stepp. Kathy, S-T-E-P-P. Kathy Stepp. And her phone number, she's the head honcho, the head knocker, the person responsible for the killing of wildlife in Wisconsin. 608-266-2121. 608-266-2121. Repeat, 608-266-2121. Kathy Stepp, S-T-E-P-P. I'll put her name and number on the website. You're doing a great job, class. Evidently, they are getting they're getting inundated with calls. They're getting inundated with calls, and I told them I was glad to help. I said we're on 4 radio stations, 2 internet networks, and 2 satellites covering the globe, and we're not stopping. We're not stopping. We want this person fired. We want the person in charge of this absolutely fired. And we'll start with Jennifer Niemeyer and then her boss, Kevin Mickelberg. They both need to be fired. Frank Underhill, potash. What is going on with potash?
Well, this should be a break for farmers. Russia pulled out of a potash cartel, and they predict 25%, 50%, well, 25% drop in potash prices.
Yeah.
So this should help the farmer out somehow in the short term, but in the longer term, I think potash should probably move back up higher again. And it's amazing how expensive it is basically for mud. And
well, it is. It is. It's about around $300 a ton, right?
For mud, exactly. And so this could probably help the farmer out. But that was a big story. Sent potash company prices in a bit of a tizzy, but it doesn't look like they can come down a whole heck of a lot more. I watched that, but I don't know what the long-term damage of this would be. But I think that if they want to do competition, I think here's where North American companies have it, like the household names here. People like that potash, and I think because of Russian potash, I think buyers would be dubious of what they're selling them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they probably hurt themselves more, if anything.
In fact, let me share this with the class. Years ago, when Chernobyl blew up, the nuclear reactor at Chernobyl, there were some downwinders. And what Russia did, if I were in charge, I would say, okay, let's determine what the area is of the contamination, the downwind contamination, and let's fence that off, and we're going to make that no man's land. And we're going to keep people away from that because they can die from radiation exposure. That's not what they did, Frank. They set up a computer system, and they raised beef on the land, and the cows are grazing on this radioactive grass, which was downwind from Chernobyl. So the computer system was set up to make sure that everyone got his fair share of the radioactive grass-fed beef. That's how they handled it. Unbelievable. So if you're concerned about what Russia might do with potash, they've got a history of feeding their own people radioactive meat, and they want to make sure everybody gets his fair share. So I'm not all that convinced that foreign countries have our interests in mind. I don't think China does. I think we need to have our interests in mind, and we do a lousy job at that.
I agree. Yeah.
Frank, want to talk about gas when we come back?
Absolutely.
What else would you like
People
to talk about?
Watch it. Well, we'll
it's an
fill it
indicator.
up.
Yeah. Let's talk about gas when we get back. Frank Underhill, UnderhillSecurities.com. I'll give you his phone number when we come back. just called the Department of Natural Resources in Wisconsin, the Secretary's office, Kathy Stepp. And what you get is you get transferred to a call center. Don't give up. Keep calling and tell them you're outraged, if you are. If you think it's good to kill the baby deer to prevent disease, tell them that too. Tell them whatever you think. But make sure that that your voice is heard, because if it's not, these guys will keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And Frank, here's a post I just saw. There's a school in Illinois that is going to use a hair test. They're going to cut students' hair and test it to see if they're using alcohol. Now, it's a private school. It's a private school in Illinois, and this is just one more step in the loss of freedoms. You know, I'll tell you, when Frank, I don't know how you feel about alcohol. We really haven't talked that much about it. But when I was growing up, at a very, very young age, my dad was a principal and acting superintendent of schools, a teacher, college instructor. And he said, son, this was in the 60s, he said, there's the liquor cabinet. If you want some, go ahead. Go ahead. But make sure you do it at home. Okay? You are not to drink outside the home. But if you want some wine, if you'd like to have some beer, go ahead. Frank, I had no desire. It was no big deal. It was no big deal. And that's because my dad knew how to raise his family. Now, to this day, I very, very, very seldom have an alcoholic beverage because I don't want to. But here we are encroaching on students' freedoms to use a hair test. They're going to cut a piece of the hair, and they're going to send it off to a lab. And then what happens? Then what happens? That student is marked for life. And what about false positives? And what about the DNA? And what about the DNA of those hair samples? It's out of control. So, class, I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to tell you the plan. When you register your children for school, you can tell them that it is against your religion to get these injections, these mandatory injections. They won't tell you initially. You're going to have to fight them and tell them, no, 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 it's against our religion. And you don't have to tell them what your religion is. You can tell them it's against your religion to get these injections that are mandatory for schools. Children are getting cancer from these injections. They're getting sick. We're getting fat. And we're becoming the dumbest nation on the planet. I suggest you consider your options. Frank, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I just like to talk about, again, how you have the encroachment on rights, and they want to wreck, kids' life at an early age, and it's just ridiculous how we've gotten this far amok, and it's shaping up more and more like a police state.
Well, it is, and here where I'm temporarily broadcasting in Virginia for the next couple of days, it's an occupied territory. It really is. There are police cruisers everywhere. Frank, I remember the days when police cars were Spartan. They had bench seats. They didn't have big hubcaps. They had these little hubcaps to save costs. They didn't have the chrome grille. They had a black painted grille to save costs. Now these things are painted up like, I'm talking about reflective gold foil, sheriff's office. I mean, they've got numbers on the top. They've got $40,000 license plate scanners. I mean, where is this money coming from?
Loaded with technology, loaded with an arsenal enough to equip a private army. It's just over the top.
It is over the top.
And actually, earlier in the program, Vincent, when you're talking about a hail of bullets and what people go into, marshals, and this is what it's like. It is a paramilitary organization. The federal government gives these municipalities this money to spend on the anti-terrorism, and so they buy everything from overpriced body armor to armored cars and everything in between.
Yeah,
and they show up unannounced, and they show up with brute force. They show up with more more of a bang than, say, the Nazis did in World War II going into somebody's home. This is what we've degraded down to, a militaristic, paramilitary style police force.
Frank, you hit the
And a
nail
lot
right
of
on the
these
head.
police, with all due to your listeners, a lot of them are not that bright. A lot of them are not smart. A lot of them don't even have anything past grade 12. And when you equip someone like this with weapons that can do a lot of damage, that don't think things out before they pull the trigger, you are playing with a very volatile cocktail of stress. A lot of these police officers come from Iraq or Iran or wherever they were serving, and it reminds them back on the field again, and you have a trigger mentality.
Frank, you hit the nail right on the head. There's an article on the website, usaprepares.com, and I posted it last evening. It's called Cop Rage. Officer T. Michael Wilson beats a 60-year-old man as he asks for help. And here's what happens.
Wow.
There's a video. Just go to the website, usaprepares.com. This man was in a hotel, and he felt that someone had been in his room. So he went down to the front desk to tell the clerk behind the desk, hey, looks like someone's been in my room. I want to report it. Well, a cop shows up, grabs this 60-year-old guy, and throws him down on the hard concrete floor of the hotel. That's how they react. It's unbelievable. And it's not like this guy was pointing at the cop. It's not like this guy had something in his hand. He literally kind of had his hands at an at-ease position behind him. You know, just kind of just behind him. It's not like he was threatening at all. This is a senior citizen gets beat up by a cop. And I've got the telephone number if you want to call the police department and talk to their public relations department. That's on the website at usaprepares.com. I'm outraged at the amount of bullying and abuse by the police on us for no reason. These guys have a bad day. Tough. We all have bad days. But they should be fired immediately. No questions asked. The video speaks for itself. This man, Officer T. Michael Wilson, needs to be fired immediately. Seriously, the video speaks for itself. It's right on the website. Frank, a lot of things happen in the United Kingdom first. And get this, and this is survival economics coming our way. I happen to be in a neighborhood right now where they have CC and Rs, which are the restrictions within a neighborhood. You know, you can't park your car in certain places, can't have signs. Let's see. See if I can find some of these CC and Rs. Okay. For example, you saw the X-Files with Fox Mulder and Scully, and they were in a neighborhood, and it was called Arcadia. And David Duchovny, the Fox Mulder, wanted to have a basketball hoop, a portable one, in his driveway. And the neighbor said, oh, man, you know, it's against the CC&Rs. So anyway, some of the things that homeowners may not have or are regulated in a neighborhood in Virginia are pets, shingles, siding, exterior paint, fences, shrubs, hedges, landscaping. That means what flowers can and can't be planted. Swing set, basketball hoops, other structures for children, mailboxes, noise, tool sheds, home-based businesses. So these covenants, codes, and restrictions are really, really restrictive. And, it makes for a nice-looking neighborhood, but man, oh man, you can't use your property as you might want to. So I wanted to share with you that these restrictions are all over the place. But the one I really wanted to tell you about is in the United Kingdom. And what's happening there is if you park your car in your driveway, you can do that. But if you charge someone else for the use of your driveway to park his or her car because there's no street parking, you can be fined $39,000 for allowing someone else to park in your driveway in the United Kingdom. Out of control. Now, they're testing it there. It's coming here. That's what's going to happen here. Believe me. That's what they do. Thoughts, Frank?
It's just staggering. These cameras in parking lot, these cameras with police, you saw this in the UK first, and now you're seeing them here. And, I do, when I go out to a hotel, every now and again you will see a cruiser trolling the parking lot with these gadgets on the roof, stealthed in with the headlights, and the guy cruises through very slowly, and you know what he's doing? He's scanning plates. And I think people should know, too, anytime you check into a hotel, whether it be here or anywhere in the country, with a credit card, that information right away goes to a warrant database somewhere, and to see where and you believe me, you'd have the police at your door pretty darn quick if your name is on that list.
You're right, Frank. I stayed at a casino. Sam Bushman, Sheriff Richard Mack, Kurt Crosby, Michael Evans, or a bunch of us who were at the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Conference in St. Charles, Missouri several months ago. And I had to produce picture ID to prove who I was, or I was not going to be able to stay there. So I produced it, and to my surprise, no one came to arrest me that weekend. It's kind of nice. Class, I just want to mention Meet Up Tonight. Meet Up Tonight, Ziggy's, 5:30, Sunshine and Glenstone, Springfield, Missouri. Dr. Howard Shayne's going to be on stage, and he's going to be talking about survival and emergency dentistry. What do you need to know? As a matter of fact, when you think about it, class, think about this. The roots of your teeth are in your jaw, and it's really close to your brain. So if you have a tooth problem, you could die. You could die. So Dr. Howard Shayne is going to talk about emergency dentistry tonight. Ziggy's, 5:30, Sunshine and Glenstone, Springfield, Missouri. Bring your questions. Bring your questions. He's the expert on drilling, filling, and billing. Dr. Howard Shayne. We'll be right back with Frank Underhill. Singing about tomorrow. Class, tomorrow we're going to have a very serious topic. You're going to get a chance for 2 hours to meet a former drug addict. A former drug addict. A former hepatitis A, B, and C carrier. Someone who refused a liver transplant and cured himself of his drug addiction and his hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. Am I kidding? No. No. I'm delighted to bring on board tomorrow for 2 hours someone who has survived drug addiction, hepatitis A, B, and C, cured himself, and told the doctors he was not going to go for a liver transplant, and has survived. He's a master survivor. 2 hours. That's tomorrow. And you might want to go to the website, get the call-in number, and you may call in tomorrow. And just go to usaprepares.com, and you'll see the call-in number. I suggest that if you have a drug addiction problem, or someone in your family does, or has hepatitis A, B, and C, and wants to learn how this person cured himself, tomorrow, usaprepares.com. Meet up tonight, Dr. Howard Shayne, senior usaprepares.com instructor. He's a dentist. He makes teeth, he drills, he fills, and he does not use mercury. And that's tonight at Ziggy's, 5:30. Frank Underhill's with us. Frank, is there any way, is there just even a hope of not seeing serious inflation, which leads to hyperinflation? Is there any way we can avoid that?
Yes, simply by not consuming.
No. I mean the country. I mean the country as a whole.
Well, no. You know, over history, prices have only gone up. I think you're saying earlier in the program, I saw about a $4.27 a loaf of bread, and you remember when it was 17 cents. So the answer is no. There is no hope. You never see car prices go down. You never see food prices go down. energy prices, and metals prices, they fluctuate up and down, but generally the trend is higher. So absolutely not.
Frank, as I rode around here in Northern Virginia, I saw these little cars, and I call them half a car. And they are these little, they call them smart cars. They call them all kinds of names. They are little, tiny, tiny cars. Right behind the bumper is the driver's feet. So if they're in an accident, these are death traps. And here's what I said to Mrs. Finelli as I started seeing these. I said, you know what? They're trying to convince people that they need to drive these little shoeboxes, these high miles per gallon vehicles. And they're telling people this is the smart thing to do. This is the ecological thing to do. Okay, ecologically, sure, I agree with that. But in an area where there are tractor trailers and semis and large trucks and people are driving, talking on their cell phones, it's dangerous. Well, here's the point. Can you imagine Barack Obama riding in one of those? Can you imagine it? Can you imagine Barack Obama or and his children riding in one? Can you imagine the chauffeur taking them to their private school in one of those? Hey, let's save some fuel and let's shuttle the children off to school in this little half a car? I doubt it. Frank, what I'm saying is there's two classes. There's them, the elite, the jet setters, the guys that are burning all of our fuel, and then there's us, and they're telling us, hey, save the fuel because we're all in this together. Frank, have I lost my mind?
No, your mind's in the right place. And where I'm from, in Vancouver, British Columbia, there's a push to get people out of their cars and onto bikes. They're turning a lot of streets into bike lanes. I'm pretty sure this happens. This phenomenon is occurring in a lot of urban areas. But people got to bear in mind, there was a guy, a couple decades ago that tried to take people out of their cars and their homes and move them into the countryside, and you saw what the result was there. Be careful. Don't let them get you out of your automobile.
Right. Don't give it up. 702-987-5449. Frank Underhill. Let me give it to you again. 702-987-5449. So if you're interested in the resource sector, if you're interested in understanding securities, Frank Underhill is the man that Bob Chapman trusted 5 times a day when he called him. 702-987-5449. Frank Underhill, thanks so much for being with us, class. Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you. And please consider calling those numbers for the DNR on the website.